I think the late 70s, they created margarine to try and get people off butter to lower the heart disease. Has it?
No.
No, not at all. And what's the definition of insanity? To do what you've always done and expect different results. But something else has come up now, neck to neck with heart disease, and that is cancer. So that's one of the contributing factors. But something else has happened as a result, and this is well documented. You can search this one out. Margarine causes macular degeneration. That's a proven fact. So what else have they done to try and lower heart disease? Put everyone over the age of 40 on cholesterol-lowering medication, yeah? Cholesterol-lowering medication. Are you ready for the side effects? Dementia, muscle wasting, Alzheimer's, memory loss, and they've just added another one, breast cancer, because our sex hormones are made from cholesterol.
You know, cholesterol, there is a silent thief moving through American medicine cabinets, and it is not some new street drug. It is the allergy pill you take every spring, the sleep aid you rely on to finally quiet your brain at night, the bladder medication that lets you sit through a movie without running to the restroom. These drugs are sold over the counter and prescribed by the millions, and you probably trust them completely because your doctor gave you the prescription or you have been using them since you were a kid. But a growing mountain of research is pointing to something terrifying. Some of the most popular medications in the United States are strongly linked to a faster slide into dementia. The mechanism is not a mystery. Many of these drugs belong to a class called anticholinergics. That word sounds complicated, but the concept is simple. They work by blocking a brain chemical called acetylcholine, which is essential for memory, learning, and attention. When you block that chemical, you might get temporary relief from an overactive bladder or a runny nose, but you might also be dimming the very circuits your brain needs to stay sharp. Today, we are going to walk through 10 popular medications, some prescription, some over-the-counter, that are linked to cognitive decline. Number 1, diphenhydramine. Diphenhydramine, sold as Benadryl, is the most common first-generation antihistamine in the United States. For decades, parents have given it to kids with allergies, and adults have used it as a cheap sleep aid. It is in dozens of generic store-brand allergy and nighttime products, but diphenhydramine is one of the most potent anticholinergic drugs still available without a prescription. It crosses the blood-brain barrier rapidly and blocks acetylcholine receptors throughout the brain. The evidence linking long-term use of Benadryl to dementia is now too strong to ignore. A widely cited study from the University of Washington and Group Health tracked nearly 3,500 adults aged 65 and older for 7 years. The highest users of strong anticholinergics like diphenhydramine had a significantly elevated dementia risk. The risk did not go away quickly after stopping the drug. It appeared cumulative. The elderly are especially vulnerable because the brain's acetylcholine system is already declining with age. What makes this particularly alarming is how Benadryl hides in plain sight. It's the active ingredient in Tylenol PM, Advil PM, and many nighttime cough syrups. Millions of Americans take a nightly dose without knowing they are swallowing a potent, brain-affecting drug. Safer alternatives like second-generation antihistamines, loratadine, Claritine, cetirizine, Zyrtec, and fexofenadine, Allegra, do not cross into the brain nearly as much and provide allergy relief without the cognitive hit. If you need sleep help, non-drug approaches like improved sleep hygiene or even melatonin under a doctor's guidance are safer starting points. Number 2, sleeping pills. Prescription sleeping pills like Ambien, Lunesta, and Sonata, along with benzodiazepines like Valium, Xanax, and Ativan, are prescribed in staggering numbers across the U.S. for anxiety and insomnia. These drugs work by boosting a brain chemical called GABA, which slows down neural activity and produces a calming, sedating effect. The problem is that they do not just put you to sleep. They interfere with the brain's natural sleep architecture, reduce deep restorative sleep, and over time can impair memory consolidation and cognitive speed. A study published in the British Medical Journal in 2014 followed nearly 9,000 older adults in Canada for 6 years and found that benzodiazepine use was associated with a more than 50% increased risk of Alzheimer's disease. The risk increased with the length of exposure. For Z drugs like Ambien, the data is similar. Reports of bizarre parasomnia behaviors, sleepwalking, sleep eating, even sleep driving have been documented by the FDA, which issued a black box warning. But beyond those dramatic incidents, the quiet daily erosion of cognitive function is what worries researchers most. Many people also develop tolerance and dependence, needing higher doses for the same effect, which only deepens the cognitive risk. The typical American patient is often started on a short-term prescription that quietly stretches into years. Withdrawal can be extremely difficult, so tapering under medical supervision is critical. Non-drug approaches like cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia have been shown to be highly effective without any toxic side effects. You have to ask, is a chemically induced night of sleep worth the long-term cost to your brain? Number 3, oxybutynin. Oxybutynin, brand name Ditropan, is one of the most commonly prescribed medications for overactive bladder. If you have ever seen a commercial about gotta go, you know the market. Millions of Americans, especially older women, take this drug to control urinary urgency and incontinence. Oxybutynin is a powerful anticholinergic. It works by relaxing the bladder muscle, but it does so by blocking acetylcholine receptors all over the body, including in the brain. The cognitive cost of oxybutynin has been well documented. A 2015 study in JAMA Neurology found that older adults taking anticholinergic bladder drugs like oxybutynin showed measurable brain atrophy on MRI scans and performed worse on memory tests compared to those not taking the drugs. They also metabolized glucose less efficiently in the hippocampus, the brain's memory center. Another study published in the journal PLOS-1 in 2021 found that long-term users of oxybutynin had a significantly higher dementia risk. The tragedy is that millions of patients stay on this drug for years without ever being told there is a safer way. Mirabric, works through a completely different mechanism and does not carry the anticholinergic burden. Behavioral therapies, pelvic floor physical therapy, and even simple bladder training can also be effective first-line treatments that don't touch the brain at all. If you or a loved one takes a bladder pill, get the name and check the anticholinergic load. Your bladder might be calmer, but your brain could be paying the price. Number 4, tricyclic antidepressants. Tricyclic antidepressants, particularly amitriptyline and nortriptyline, are old-school drugs that were first developed in the 1950s. Their use for depression has declined with the rise of SSRIs, but they are still widely prescribed for off-label uses like chronic pain, migraine prevention, and fibromyalgia. Amitriptyline in particular is a heavy hitter in the anticholinergic world. It ranks among the highest on the anticholinergic burden scale, a tool researchers use to quantify a drug's potential cognitive toxicity. A 2018 case control study published in JAMA Internal Medicine analyzed the medical records of nearly 300,000 older adults in the United Kingdom. It found that regular use of strong anticholinergic antidepressants was linked to a statistically significant increase in dementia over a 10-year follow-up period. The risk was not small. Amitriptyline and its chemical cousins were among the worst offenders. The thing is, many patients taking a low dose for nerve pain or migraines don't even realize they're on an antidepressant with such powerful brain effects. They think it's just a simple pain pill, and because the dose is low, doctors sometimes dismiss the risk. But low dose, long-term exposure is exactly the pattern linked to cognitive decline. If you are taking amitriptyline or nortriptyline for pain or sleep, talk to your doctor about whether newer, safer alternatives, like gabapentin for certain nerve pains or certain SNRIs for chronic pain, might work for you without the anticholinergic side effects. A conversation about swapping medications could protect your memory years down the line. Number 5, paroxetine, sold under the brand name Paxil, is an SSRI antidepressant used to treat depression, anxiety, and PTSD. SSRIs are generally considered to have a lower anticholinergic profile than the older tricyclics, but paroxetine is the glaring exception. Among all SSRIs, paroxetine has a uniquely strong affinity for muscarinic acetylcholine receptors. That makes it significantly more likely to cause memory problems, confusion, and cognitive slowing, especially in older adults. A 2016 study published in the journal JAMA Neurology used PET scans to measure brain amyloid levels and cognitive function in older adults with different medication histories. Participants taking paroxetine or other anticholinergic drugs showed worse executive function and memory than those on non-anticholinergic medications. The study also found a potential interaction between anticholinergic use and early Alzheimer's pathology, suggesting these drugs might accelerate the expression of underlying disease. What makes this especially concerning is that Paxil is sometimes prescribed for hot flashes or menopausal symptoms, exposing a population of women who might not even be thinking about dementia risk. If a patient needs an SSRI, doctors can often choose alternatives like sertraline, Zoloft, or escitalopram, Lexapro, which have a much cleaner cognitive profile and do not carry the same anticholinergic baggage. Never stop an antidepressant abruptly, but do ask your doctor if there is a safer option for your brain. Number 6, first-generation antipsychotics. First-generation antipsychotics like haloperidol, Haldol, and chlorpromazine are powerful drugs originally developed to treat schizophrenia and severe psychosis. Today, they are sometimes still used in nursing homes and hospitals for agitated dementia patients, a practice that has drawn sharp criticism from geriatric specialists. These drugs are potent dopamine blockers with significant anticholinergic side effects. In elderly brains already vulnerable to degeneration, the cognitive impact can be severe and rapid. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has issued a black box warning for the use of both first-generation and second-generation antipsychotics in elderly patients with dementia-related psychosis, citing a significantly increased risk of death from cardiovascular events and infections. Beyond the mortality risk, a 2021 study published in the journal Neurology followed over 100,000 older adults and found that those prescribed antipsychotics had a faster rate of cognitive decline and a higher risk of developing Parkinsonism. The use of antipsychotics in nursing homes is widespread, often as a chemical restraint for behaviors that stem from unmet needs, pain, hunger, loneliness, rather than true psychosis. The takeaway is sobering. Antipsychotics should be a last resort for behavioral symptoms in dementia, not a first-line chemical restraint. Non-drug interventions like environmental adjustments, music therapy, and caregiver education should be exhausted first. Families with loved ones in facilities have every right to demand to know if any antipsychotic is being given and why. Number 7, cyclobenzaprine. Cyclobenzaprine, best known by the brand name Flexeril, is a muscle relaxant widely prescribed for back pain, muscle spasms, and fibromyalgia. Its chemical structure is almost identical to the tricyclic antidepressants, and it packs the same anticholinergic punch. Tens of millions of prescriptions are written in the United States each year, often for acute injuries. The problem is that many patients stay on it longer than recommended, and the drug is taken by older adults who are already on other medications that can compound the cognitive load. A 2023 analysis of Medicare data found that cyclobenzaprine was among the most commonly prescribed anticholinergic medications to older adults, despite explicit guidelines from the American Geriatric Society recommending against its use in this population. The Beers criteria, a widely respected list of potentially inappropriate medications for older adults, flags cyclobenzaprine for its high risk of confusion, sedation, and falls. Falls themselves are a leading cause of traumatic brain injury in seniors, so the cognitive risk is compounded by a physical danger. Many of these prescriptions are written after a car accident or a weekend warrior injury, but the pill bottle often sits in the cabinet and gets used long after the acute pain is gone. Safer pain management strategies include physical therapy, topical NSAIDs, and non-anticholinergic medications like methocarbamol for short-term use. A drug that clouds your thinking also makes it harder to heal properly because you can't pay attention to your body's signals. Number 8, promethazine. Promethazine, sold as Phenergan, is an anti-nausea medication often prescribed for vertigo, motion sickness, and morning sickness. It is also a potent anticholinergic and antihistamine. Chemically, it is related to the antipsychotic chlorpromazine, which tells you everything you need to know about its potential to affect brain function. Many people keep Phenergan in their medicine cabinet as a go-to for stomach bugs without realizing the drug is powerfully sedating and can cause profound confusion, especially in children and the elderly. The anticholinergic effects of promethazine are well documented. Case reports describe elderly patients developing acute delirium after a single dose. The drug's long half-life means it can linger in the system for well over a day, continuing to block acetylcholine long after the nausea has subsided. It comes in tablets, suppositories, and even a gel form that rubs onto the skin, which many patients assume is milder, but the drug still enters the bloodstream. Number 9, meclizine. Meclizine, sold over the counter as Dramamine less drowsy and by prescription as Antivert, is the drug millions of Americans reach for when dizziness or vertigo strikes. It is an antihistamine with anticholinergic properties. The less drowsy label is a relative comparison to the original Dramamine, which is even more sedating. Meclizine still crosses into the brain and blocks acetylcholine. For an older person with age-related changes to the vestibular system, the drug can suppress dizziness while simultaneously fogging cognition. A 2020 literature review in the journal Drugs and Aging concluded that meclizine should be used with extreme caution in older adults, as the anticholinergic effects could worsen balance and increase fall risk, entirely defeating the purpose of treating dizziness. The review also highlighted the potential for meclizine to contribute to long-term cognitive decline when used repeatedly. Vertigo often responds well to vestibular rehabilitation therapy, a series of guided exercises that retrain the brain's balance systems without any medication at all. Number 10, proton pump inhibitors. Proton pump inhibitors like omeprazole, Prilosec, and esomeprazole, Nexium, are not anticholinergic drugs, so their inclusion on this list surprises many people. But a growing body of research suggests a link between long-term PPI use and increased dementia risk. The proposed mechanism involves the disruption of the body's delicate chemical balance. PP is suppressed stomach acid so effectively that they can reduce the absorption of vitamin B12 and magnesium, both of which are critical for neurological health. PP may also alter the gut microbiome in ways that influence brain inflammation. A large study published in the journal Neurology in 2023 followed over 5,000 older adults for 5 years and found that those who took PPIs for more than 4 years had a significantly higher risk of developing dementia compared to non-users. The study controlled for other factors, but the association remained. PPIs are wildly overprescribed in the United States. They are among the top-selling drugs in the country, available over the counter and heavily advertised. Millions of people take them for mild heartburn that could be managed with dietary changes, weight loss, or H2 blockers like famotidine, Pepcid, that have a better long-term safety profile. What you need to do now. None of this is meant to scare you into throwing every pill in your house into the trash tonight. Some of these medications are necessary for certain people at certain times. The danger is not the occasional Benadryl for a bee sting or a single dose of Phenergan during a stomach flu. The danger is chronic, cumulative use, year after year, of drugs that are quietly chipping away at the brain's most precious chemical. The danger is never being told the truth about that trade-off. You now know which medications carry the highest anticholinergic burden. You know the names: diphenhydramine, oxybutynin, amitriptyline, paroxetine, and the rest. You know that safer alternatives often exist. Your job is not to self-diagnose or self-prescribe. It is to walk into your next doctor's appointment, bring a list of everything you take, and ask a simple question. Do any of these drugs raise my risk for dementia, and is there a safer option? You deserve that conversation, and if your doctor brushes off the concern, get a second opinion. Your brain is worth the extra effort. If this video was helpful and you want more content that pulls back the curtain on what is really hiding in your medicine cabinet, hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments, did any of these medications surprise you, and are you planning to talk to your doctor about them? Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.